Really? Where are we at? Okay. All right. I see some people jumped on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Took a little time to actually set up today. So I'll be honest with you, little exhausted. Been a very busy week for me, and I want to first of all apologize. I did not finish the post for this week, so just want to say I apologize for that. It is in the making. In the making, I have a lot of it done for the first post, based on last time that we met. But yeah, it's something that I got to continue to work on, and I do want to put it out this weekend. So hopefully tomorrow's a little easier for me. But got day job, got daddy duties, and everything else. And my wife wasn't feeling the best yesterday, so I took on cooking yesterday as well as today. So, but anyway, uh, last time, what did we do? What did we do? What did we do? Last time. Okay, so last time we met, we covered doing a share drive on Windows. We learned how to partition. First of all, we learned how to add a drive within VirtualBox. But with that, we took that drive, we shared the drive across multiple computers on the same network, and then we also took from there. We learned how to partition the drive. We also learned how to do it with folder, I believe with a folder as well. And then the biggest thing I think people enjoyed the most was we learned, and I enjoyed actually a lot, was we learned how to uh, do password recovery. Well, not password recovery, password cracking, right? Leveraging a SAM file and the system file from one of my Windows machines, and I used Parrot OS, but if you're familiar with penetration testing, a lot of the penetration Linux distributions, they work pretty much a similar way. You have a lot of the same tools. So I encouraged everyone that was watching to download Kali Linux and to try to follow along the best they could. Um, that being said, I feel like there was something I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. um, oh yeah, you know what? What I should have did, and I thought about it afterwards. First of all, when it comes to password cracking or doing anything evasive like that, um, please, only do it on your own lab that you have at home using virtual machines, or make sure you have an agreement with whomever you're doing it for. That's I probably should have done a disclaimer the first time saying that, but it is what it is, and I hope you all were responsible enough to not use what you've learned to do anything mischievous over last week. Because I do promote learning, I promote breaking things as long as you own them and you have all the rights to them. I guess that's one thing I should have started off with, and but yeah, continue to watch my videos. I'm posting these live streams. I mean, I love doing them. They take a lot of effort, but it's something I enjoy doing. I really do enjoy doing this, and it allows me to touch a little bit of things that I don't normally touch. So, if you know anything about me, I'm mainly a Linux guy. I've been in Linux for the last 10 plus years, but because of this stream, I'm trying to make this stream something that's usable for anyone that is wanting to get into um, system administration, right? In the corporate America industry, or just work for a company, period. I don't care if it's corporate America, it could be your own company. Most people are going to be running their companies on Windows. So I want to make sure we bridge the gap between what I know about Linux and what is possible in Windows. And yeah, that's the point of doing this. So I'm hoping everyone's enjoying what we're doing, and I'm hoping that we get a lot out of this one today. I just thought about it. My title needs to be changed. This is definitely lessons, and I know you can't see this. I'm just typing in another screen, and I don't know if this is even going to save, but I'm going to try it anyway. Lessons with Ricardo, system, admin, Windows, PowerShell. That's a very long title. I will take care of it later, but let's save that. See if it changes anything. All right, cool. All right, so who we got out there today? Somebody give me a shout out. Let me know who's on. I'm thinking Squirrel Domination, or Megan. I'm hoping is on there. Ryan, if you're out there, somebody. My normal people that usually show up. I'm looking forward to having you all in this stream. I'll be honest with you, because of all the things I've gone through this week, this is really going to be what I told you this channel is about. Us learning together. So what I promised last time is that we're going to start touching on PowerShell. We're going to start going over the PowerShell commands, how PowerShell works today. And the reason why I chose to do PowerShell is because I love it, Megan. I'm glad you're here. Um, the reason why I chose PowerShell is because is honestly, I think a lot of people have heard of it, but it is a tool within majority of Windows and Windows editions that you could use to manage um, your machine, right? And managing the machine really breaks down to knowing what your machine is doing, what processes are there, and also being able to configure items that need to be changed or modified or updated on your machine. So that's what we're talking about when we say manage the machine. What's up, Maurice? Hey, Mary, I appreciate y'all jumping in here. Um, so yeah, so that's the reason why I chose to do PowerShell. I mean, be honest with you, there are a lot of commands that PowerShell just simplifies versus using the command line. And if you've never been into scripting at all, Windows has pretty much three interfaces, three languages that are built into it that you can leverage to actually interact with your machine. And that's VB, Visual Basics, command line, just a standard CLI command line interface, command prompt, I think is what it's actually called, and then PowerShell. So those are three options. Out of the three, PowerShell is the most relevant, and it's what every admin is going to have to use. This is also useful if you're looking to collect information. If I know quite a few of my colleagues, we're in the industry where we have to understand what we're looking at when we're requesting information from some of our clients, and this will help you hopefully get the hang of how to read through PowerShell. Okay, so for me, a key skill to have if you're going to even look at either getting into system administration, anything technical, or work in an industry, kind of like audit or something like that, is you want to be familiar with the technology and you want to be comfortable with command line interfaces, which is the black screen, white text. I'm gonna bring it up here in just a moment. Um, and also be familiar with scripting. Um, that's something that I believe is an invaluable skill, and I'm hoping we get you started with that today. So, as I stated, today's going to be a lot of walkthrough together, and I hope this rambling of an intro gave you enough time to set your machine up. And I hope some people took the initiative to spin up, if they have the space, spin up an additional Windows machine in VirtualBox. I know some people have told me off outside the stream that they're having problems, and if you know me, I will quickly have you install something like TeamViewer, and I will jump into it with you. I will make sure that we run through some of the steps together. And in fact, I just thought about it. I just thought about it. How about, I mean, if you're up for it, first of all, I would tell you clear your desktop. Okay, if you haven't thought about it yet, never ever do anything on a stream if you're not managing your desktop. You don't want anybody finding those files. or knowing what you look for on your off time. Okay, but I'm saying that because if you want to, I'm happy to put it a part of the stream. If you run into an issue, just toss in the chat your TeamViewer ID. So make sure you download TeamViewer. And in fact, while I'm talking about it, let me bring it up. Okay, so I'll walk you through how we're going to do this. And this will actually be something that I think we all could benefit from because I think the thing that irritates me the most about myself, excuse me, wow, I apologize. I was trying to fight it, hold it back. Um, I think the one thing that really irritates me about doing these live streams and not being face to face with individuals or actually being like a real training session is I'm the kind of person that, hey, tell me what's going on. I'm gonna walk you through it. You know what I'm saying? Drop one in the chat if you've already been in that situation with me where you already know for sure I'm going to come through for you the best I can, and I'm gonna go ahead and jump on TeamView and I'm gonna walk you through everything I can because I don't want to leave anyone hanging. So just for the record, I want people to drop that one in the chat if I've done it already for you. Uh, but now we want to know the things you've seen on people's desks. No, no, Mary. Okay, shh. I might tell you a little later. All right. Um, Thank you for that. I appreciate the blessing from the sneeze earlier. All right. Um, but yeah. So I want everyone to make sure you get this installed on your computer, and anytime in these sessions, let's jump into it. You know what I'm saying? Send me the team viewer ID and then text me the password. And in fact, it doesn't even matter if you do it in this chat because if you've done it before, you know the password rotates every time you execute. So it's never going to be the same password anyway. So I think one thing I like about TeamViewer. And there are other applications that do this. It's just that my best friend, like my brother, for many, many plus years, he's my other brother from another mother, and he he said he was going to help me out with one of my blogs to capture some Windows like interface, and we were doing the Docker sessions, and I was like, man, that's great. And I was like, I didn't even think about doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing what you forget to think about when you're like just grinding every day trying to find ways to help other people. So this is what I'm talking about. So you go to TeamViewer, just click on, go straight to the downloader, download if you want, and it's going to take you to this site here. I want you to download whatever version you want. Doesn't make a difference. Remember, 32-bit, 64-bit. The application is going to run the same. It just works a little differently under the hood. But you'll never know the difference as a person, as an end user. So a person behind the keyboard. So that being said, 64, 32-bit, I don't think there's too much difference in the size. In fact, we can see how big these are. Let's see here. Copy link and just, well, I guess I could just go ahead and download it. But I feel like there's another way to do it. I feel like there's another way to do it. I'm getting so sidetracked. I'm so sorry. So 33 megs, it ain't even that bad. You can download 33 megs. Anyone has 33 megs, right? Um, Mary, I'm not going to come for you on that one. I'm hoping you got that hard drive now, or at least, the best boyfriend in the world is still letting you borrow his. Uh, but yeah, download TeamViewer. You know what I'm saying? If you have any problems at all, put it in the chat. I'll jump on there. Text me on my phone. I do try to keep my phone with me, and I will make sure that we jump on it. We do it for everyone. You know what I'm saying? My thing is your problem is not just your problem. Your problem is an opportunity for other people to learn. So your problem means that, hey, uh, you run into an issue, someone else might run into that same issue later. All right. So that being said, TeamViewer, download it. You know what I'm saying? Keep it handy. And you want to reach out to me. We'll do a session. Okay. All right. So that being said, let's jump into it. Okay. So PowerShell. We talked about it. You already know, but things you don't know about PowerShell. Okay. Things you don't know about PowerShell. Well, first of all, I think I want to do some. What app do I have? Do I have Word on here already? I got WordPad. Does WordPad give you shapes? Ooh, 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 ooh. Hey, somebody put drop me a link in the chat if you know of an application I could draw shapes online. Totally free. Something I could just log into. because I don't know if I could do it here. Let me see if it does shapes. Home, insert an object. Nope. Paint, draw. You all will hate me if I do the paint. Oh yeah, I can do shapes here. Okay, cool. Didn't even think about that. Okay, cool. I still want somebody to ping it to me though. You find something online like mural, mural, or Miro, something that's free though. Let me know. I'm happy to jump into that too. All right, but that being said, what I want to first start off is tell you the power that is behind PowerShell and why it's such a great tool to have, right? So if you've ever taken any um, any programming classes, I mean you ain't have to pay attention. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you're a programmer. It doesn't make a difference. But if you've taken any programming class, then I will say this much: you've heard of object orientation. Mary, you were right. Yeah, you were ahead of the game. You were saying you're going to tell me to use Paint instead, right? I'm telling you, Mary, you are my go-to person for software. Every time I'm doing something, you got a solution. I'm telling you, I might have to team up with you on this software stuff, man. You got some good insights. Okay. All right. So, um, that being said, the object oriented, right? Okay, object oriented. I said this before in previous streams. I'll continue to say it. Object. We're not creative people. Okay, so object oriented programming language. That means we're focusing on objects that we're building within this programming language, and OOP object oriented programming. Yeah, I appreciate it, Megan. Um, so we focus on the objects, right? And that's our our main focus. So if we're focused on objects, how does this work? What is an object, right? An object is anything that we define at that time. But an object, let's say it's a box, right? And within this box, every object has characteristics, right? If you think of a bowl of cereal, right? A bowl, period. It has a characteristic, right? It has that concave inside that's been scooped out, and every bowl has a different depth to it, but it has it. It's a part of the definition of a bowl is to have that inner part that's missing to hold something fluid, right? That's a characteristic of that object we call a bowl, right? So the reason I mention that is because with every object, you're going to have characteristics that can be summed up and said that every one of those instances have that same object. So if I took this and I just broke this out into a square, we know the object all have four corners, right? Every one of them has four corners. If it's going to be a square, rectangle, it doesn't make a difference. Um, and it has sides. So it has corners, it has sides, and it has an area. So in this case, I would say that this object pretty much has that. These are one attribute, as some people will call it, is equal to a corner. We don't know how, we don't, well, we know the angle of the corner. We just don't, we know how many they have, but maybe it's a different color, right? Maybe all the corners are different colors. It doesn't have to be the same color. You might draw it in crown. I don't know. So attribute can equal a corner. Attribute one could be a corner. And then attribute, and I'm going to abbreviate at this point, attribute, ATTR, I believe, is going to be sides, right? And then attribute, and that was two, would be, we said area, right? Inside, it has an inside to it, right? All right, so this is what we mean by object oriented having attributes. It has characteristics, and that's exactly what PowerShell allows you to do. It allows you to take an object and break it down and get further information about it by just tacking on which attribute you want to dig into. So, for instance, let's say an object on any computer system is what a file, right? Every computer system has a file. You know, when you log in, you probably got a to-do list on your computer. You might just have something you download on the internet, but a file has attributes. It has things that are related to that particular object, that instance of a file that you can pull off. If you think about a file, what are some of the attributes you can think about with a file, right? So bring this up. If I do a file, well, let's just do, I don't want to do that because those are non-readable to us in this form. We'll just make a new file, okay? I'm just gonna fill it in a little bit. I'm gonna save something, just save test, save as, I'm gonna test it, save as test, okay? Save it to to the desktop. All right, I'm gonna close that. All right, so we can get rid of this one because I actually made two by accident because we did save as. All right, so this is our file. What's the very first attribute we notice about it? It has a name. Okay, so this object of a file, we know it always has a name. So when we create the object of files in general, we say that every one of them we expect to have at least a name. It also has, looking at the properties, it also has a size. It has a location. All these are attributes to the one object of a file. So that's what object-oriented programming is. What's the size? 11 bytes. So that's how big that one entry of that hello world text, it equals out to 11 bytes of a plain text file on my system, right? And it should be standard across the board, but I said that. But yeah, so this is kind of what I mean. So it's focused on each individual object we look at. All right, now, what does PowerShell look like, right? So now you know it's object oriented. Um, No, I was saying another attribute. Oh, you were okay. I got you, Megan. Yeah, size. I got to it. I did. It came through a little delay, so you beat me there. Yeah, but anything that properties file, it's a property. It's an attribute. That means it's a part of the object. Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Megan. All right. So that's what object oriented means. It focuses on whatever object is the focus the of the query of the action being taken place. You focus on that one object and you explore as much about the object as possible. Does it mean you have to have only one object? No, you can have a list of objects you're working with, but those have to be similar. They're similar in nature and they're sharing the same attributes. You just have multiple instances of that object as you go through it. Okay, so a multiple instance in this case would be, hey, I'd go make another file, bam. I make another file, bam. Now we got three instances of a file object. So if I were to do anything in PowerShell and I say, hey, I want to iterate through all of these instances of the object type file, and I want to explode out their names, then I can do that because it's focused on just a file type object. All right, cool. So that's what we have for object oriented. All right, now there is some really cool things about PowerShell. Let's jump into it. So how do you start PowerShell? So you have two options. And it took me the longest time to understand the two options of PowerShell. You have PowerShell, which is the command line interface. Then you have PowerShell ISE. Now, we're going to work with PowerShell ISE today because I personally think it just, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a better way to learn PowerShell because you get to run stuff as you practice. Um, and you can practice that, and you can practice writing entire scripts in one interface because ISE is actually what they call an IDE. That's Igloo Delta Echo, IDE, which is Integrated Development Environment. Okay. So I'm just going to always run as administrator if I can. So I'm going to run it. You don't have to, um, but it'll start it right up. So if you're walking along with me, just go ahead and do this. Open up your ISE. Okay. All right. So what are some of the things interesting about ISE first of all? What I like about ISE is that it has this really cool feature where you can show the commands that are available through PowerShell and you can leave them to the right side of your screen. Okay, so if you're new to PowerShell, this is a great way to go. It has everything here. All of these are different options that you can run from PowerShell that interact with your computer. Okay, now it's okay if you do the GUI form, but like I said, the point of our lessons is to get you comfortable with command line. Okay, so that being said, it's here. You can definitely go that route, but I will show you the command line way of doing this. So I'm gonna close the window. We don't need to open it, just in case you're wondering. Just it's the icon here with this little greater than sign in white in the blue rectangle. That little window on the right side of ISE is how you open that up, just so you're aware. All right, so how do we use and make use of the ISE? Well, the top part here is our ID. It's our like text pad, and the bottom part is our output. This is our console. This is where we're going to see what is generated when we type stuff and run it from this part. Okay, and I think tool just to make sure debug. Where is the play button? I can't remember. F. All right, run and continue. There we go. Okay. All right. So that being said, let's try something, okay? So I'm going to get, and you know what I like about this as well? ISE gives you options as you type it out. So if you ever forget, guess what? Start with the first part of the command and then let it populate after, okay? Now, if you all have any questions, obviously drop it in the chat and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can, right? How did you get the top right part untitled PS1? Okay, so you're saying how do I get this part up here? All right, so this comes already. Oh, I get what you're talking about. Okay. I think your screen looks something like this. Does that sound about right? I just literally hover my mouse because it happened to me earlier. I hover the mouse and I pull it down and you can see it happening. So if it looks like that or if it looks like all the way up here, hover your mouse, grab and pull it down. Let me know if that helps you out, Megan. But it already comes populated, and if it isn't there, you have these panels here. Cool. Hey, look, I told you, your mistake or your challenge is an opportunity for any and everyone, right? I wouldn't have known that was your problem if I didn't already have the same problem, right? So I love it. Keep going, keep throwing those questions out there. I want you all to realize we're doing this together, okay? Um, don't see it, okay? If you don't see it, I would start with these panes up here. Make sure that you're clicked on the top pane. You can move it to the right as well, right? If this is better for you, okay? Or you can move the top pane. But just to let you know, this automatically populates a new PS1 just as soon as you open up ISE. So that's how you flip the views. And like I said, if it's not visible, it should be this little bar that's up here. Just pull it down. Okay. All right. So got you, Megan. I'm glad to hear that. Glad you found it. All right, so back to what I was saying. So you start typing in the command. I'm gonna go backwards one. Start typing the command. It will start to auto-populate suggestions. Okay, it'll give you suggestions on what you want to do. If you do get, it's gonna have a lot of suggestions. You got to start. You have to really start typing out what you think you want to do. Now, the beautiful thing about PowerShell is it has, and everyone knows this. It is always the verb dash, I'm sorry, excuse me, verb dash noun is a format for any PowerShell command. So if you ever get confused, literally just type the verb that you can remember. So think about the verbs you may have, right? Get is one. Okay, so you want to retrieve something, right? What if you want to place something, right? You can try put, okay, dash, nothing came up. Push, right? You can try push. Push might be something, right? It's a verb. So push location. We now know that that's an option. I honestly didn't know. Never done it before, right? But one thing that is commonly used, if you're getting information, you usually want to place information into the system, which is called setting. And set is a verb, right? So if we do set dash, these suggestions pretty much work both on the get side and the set side. If you have a get, you have a set for usually. So always remember that. Another thing is invoke, which means to run. So we do invoke, and we can invoke something. We can invoke a command. Um, and there's so many more things we can like try to explore with this. But I'm going to first show you the get function. So get, and then the most important one to know is get command. And it gives you an outpouring of what you can pass into it. One thing I want to point out is that I'm gonna hit tab. I'm gonna hit enter or tab to finish completion, and then I'm gonna hit run. You can do debug, F5 to run continue, or just hit F5 on your keyboard, and it's gonna run this, okay? Now, one thing about it, this can run for a while. There are a lot of commands. Some you don't want to get used to doing is just running this over and over without having some way of stopping it, okay? So I believe the way, like I said, part is I'm learning with you. There is a way to limit, and I got to remember the command. And in fact, let me pull it up on the browser here. How to retrieve, uh, how to get first five. Um, PowerShell. All right, first parameter and then select in the select object pipeline. Okay, what does that mean? Let's take a look at it. Okay. All right, so it's saying we could use it this way. And that's another thing I want you all to learn. You're not going to memorize everything when it comes to any coding language, okay? Doesn't matter what language it is, Python, Java, you're not going to know it all. So get used to not knowing, okay? Get used to making mistakes, get used to breaking things because you typed the wrong stuff. And I'm going to talk about one other aspect in a moment, but I just wanted to show you that this is something that every developer, every script writer has to get used to doing is looking up. And really, you start to learn different websites, forums, and stuff like that that work best for certain languages. If you've done any development at all, you're going to be familiar with Quora.com, which is a huge forum. But more than that, Stack Overflow. Okay. Those two are pretty much the go-to for most any language, and probably have the largest followings. Okay. But this is simple enough. It tells me to get process. We're going to talk about in a second a pipe. Okay. And then select first and give a number, give an integer. Okay. So let's try that here with command. Um, Now, the beautiful thing about Windows, if you don't know, it is not case sensitive. I don't have to pay attention if I do upper lowercase. I can literally go back and change this and not even let it correct itself. It's going to run just fine. Okay, select and then first. All right. So we got first, and we're going to do three because we're special. We're not going to do what the internet, what the web tells us. It lies. Okay, I'm overboard. I know. All right, so let's do this. And guess what? Bam. You see that? It got just the first three. That is how we limit our output. Okay. Now, the next question is, what if I don't want the first three? What if I want a specific command? Okay. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to try it out, right? Let's say I want to do a get command. I want just the gets. So I'm going to do star get. I don't know if it's going to happen, but let's see what it does. There we go. Okay, so it gave us just gets. You see how fast it stopped? Now, what you notice here though is these last two popped in here. I have no idea how these two showed up in a get command request. I'm telling you, this blows my mind. I don't know what even happened. I'm gonna have to figure that out later. But mainly the reason why is because if you notice the get is on the back end for this. When I put this star here, and actually, yeah, it does the target and everything like that. When I did the star, the asterisk in front of the get, it meant a wild card. It's a wild card character, which means substitute for any known character in Windows, whether it be a symbol, a text, whatever it is, it's gonna try to find something to fit the pattern that I gave it. Okay. All right. So this is one way to try to reduce how much you go through. Now, supposedly, PowerShell registers some of the native stuff in Linux as well. So what I want to try something is I want to do a pipe, and I'm going to explain the pipe in a second, okay? But pipe less. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. Less is not found, so less is not one of them. Let's see. Pipe more. And it might just be because of the format I'm doing it. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen to this, but we'll figure it out. All right, so and I could just go down and stop this. It probably finished before I did it anyway. All right, so that's what I want to show you first of all. How to access PowerShell just by going to your search window. How to interact with PowerShell. I prefer ISE, which is an ID for you. And then the fact it's object oriented. And how do you get used to finding commands you can run? First, knowing that every command has a verb, dash, and noun that you work with. And then knowing the get command and also get help. So get help is if you know the command that you want to investigate. Let's say write verbose, right? I just picked write verbose out here. I would do get help and I will write in write verbose and it finished it for me. And then just run F5. Remember, F5 is how you run. And look at that. It gives me what the name of the command is, syntax on how to use it, okay? Aliases, okay? And then also remarks. So basically, it gives you more information. Okay. So the best two commands to lock into memory are going to be get command, get help. Start there always. Okay. Now, you came here to learn how to actually use PowerShell. Or at least get a better understanding from it. But before I go any further with that, like I told you, it's important to know the basics of programming when you're doing any scripting languages, because honestly, if you're involved in any place where you're having to look at PowerShell or command line or VB scripts or something like that, you're going to be very overwhelmed when ver.life, right? I don't know what that means. I'm happy to find out. If it's something you want to run in the command, all right. I got a pop-up that says update help. Update help. All right. Let's see. Actually, is that a command? Now I'm curious. Let's type it up here. Update dash help. Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's see what it does. So update help. Update help module string. Oh, this is one good point. This is something to point out. You see this little part where it says string and it has this open square bracket, close square bracket? Important to know that means it can take a listing, comma, separated values to go into there. Whenever you look at something, if it shows that, it's comma separate values. And string just means it's not a number, or even if you give it a number, it's going to treat the number like a character, not like an integer. Okay. So this is something to keep in mind when you're looking at what this actually means. Now, every time you see a dash, this is a attribute, like we talked about earlier. It's a feature of that object and then you're supposed to pass a value for that. Okay. But yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. Update help. All right. So if you're getting that issue, if you're getting that, I got a pop that says update help. I'm curious why you got that though. There is one other thing I want you to keep in mind as well. PowerShell is designed to be secure, as secure as it can possibly be, I guess, without any additional intervention. Um, and I bring this up because what we're doing now, we're in ISE, we're writing things out in what they call a PS1. And a PS1 is the extension for any, I appreciate it, Megan. I'm gonna look at the picture in just a second here. Um, the extension PS1 represent a PowerShell script. That means you can execute it in PowerShell. Okay. Megan, I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna talk about your computer because you always get different. You keep me on my toes all the time, Megan. So let me pull your picture just for a second, just to make sure I can identify what you're talking about. So get help. Oh, okay. The update help command let downloads the most current help files for Windows Shell. Okay, 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 okay. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, yeah, it's telling you what to do, and it's kind of here as well. So it's just telling you to go ahead and run it, and you hit yes, it should run it for you. So that's just saying that you may need an update. It's updating things. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go there with you. How about we both update things? Update help. Let's see what mine does. Is updating things. That's interesting. All right. So anyway, I'm not gonna worry about this. We can put this to the side. I'm telling you, I don't know. I need to start thinking through some of the things I do, but I can always cancel it whenever I want to as well. So I'm just letting it run for a moment to see what happens. While I'm doing that, the basics, right? So the basis of programming is understanding the understanding what a loop is, right? Understanding what and the different type of loops we have, understanding how to set a variable, a value equal to a variable. So a variable is a empty container, right? That's waiting for a value or something to be placed inside of it. So an example of a variable would be, um, think back to math class, x, right? X can equal any single thing. And then you would just literally just solve the problem and figure out what X actually was to start with, right? Same situation when it comes to these development languages. You have a variable, you can plug in anything that you want it to be, and later use it over and over and over again, and only change the value when you want to. Yeah, all right, Megan, it says updating things when I run it, you're up to help. Date. Okay, you're up to date. Okay. All right. Hey, if it's up to date, you can just ignore it. I believe you have the option to ignore it as well. Um, try hitting no. Just try hitting no and just keep running with it. You know what I'm saying? If I find any other solutions, I'll let you know, Megan. I will. All right. So with PowerShell, um, the like I was saying, knowing the loops is probably really important. But first, let's start with variables. And in fact, I don't really need that here. Oh, look at that. Failed to update help. All right. Unable to retrieve the help XML file in the US. So I ran into a different issue. I didn't need it anyway, but um, yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. We'll look into that, okay? I'll make sure I get back in touch with you on that. All right. Excuse me. All right. So how do we set a variable? Well, in the land of PowerShell, variables, CLS is a command that a lot of Linux users or Unix-based operating systems use to clear the screen. And actually, I use clear, but CLS is a shortened version of that, and it clears the screen. So that's all I did just now is clear my screen. All right. So how do we set a variable? So a variable first starts with a dollar sign. Okay. So whatever you're going to do, start with a dollar sign, and we can say test equals something. We can say test equals hello. Um, and that's the first step. So we said enter. Now we have a variable called test. We can also do test test1 equals world. Okay. Now let's see, let's prove that they actually do exist and they didn't overwrite or anything like that. Just do test, do echo. So we do echo test, you get the hello. Okay. For test1, we do the same thing, hello world, and then echo. And this is going to be the trick part, right? This is the part I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't done this before. Let's see what it does. All right. So it did print out both of them. Let's see if we can do a plus sign, maybe. Oh, maybe we don't need anything at all. And I could probably just turn that around. I know I'm unique sometimes, but we don't have to be. Let's do space. And they gave just hello. Oh, so I wonder if I do space this plus, but I don't think I want the plus sign. All right, let's see if we can figure this out. So we got the color got me both of them. Okay. And now it's not. Oh, that's why I'm doing test two. Oh, there's a second line anyway. All right. Well, it's probably a way to fix that. We'll definitely. I'll look it up in a moment. But just want to show you that's how you do a variable. Okay. Now, what's the point of having a variable? Well, you don't always know what is going to be the output of whatever it is you choose to do. Okay. And a way to show you how to use a variable, and let's say you have. We'll do a simple loop to show this. Okay. Um, well, let's put it this way. The variable will be useful to tie into in the case that you're iterating through a loop in this case, and you don't want to have to go through and exchange the value every single time. You let the system do it for you. Okay, so you set a variable using a for loop. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Megan. Thanks, Megan. All right, let's try what Megan just said. She said just do it in parentheses, in double quotes. Gets it in one line. I appreciate it. Um, test1. All right. There you go. I appreciate it, Megan. Thank you. Do you know what happens if we do just test? Because I'm gonna get curious, right? We do just single quotes. Let's see what happens if we do single quotes. It's not looking good so far. The color is different. Yes. Okay. I'm on. Good night, son. Have a good night. All right, so that's something that I've heard of before, and I can't remember the exact terminology of it. But single and double quotes are treated differently in operating systems, and I want to say the double quotes obviously allow you to exchange. It makes it not flexible, but dynamic in nature, so it can actually swap out variable values in between the double quotes. So that's a little confusing if you have any experience with development languages. Usually with development languages, some people will use double quotes for strings and single quotes for strings, and they'll combine them if they're trying to make use of a string and a variable in the same line, right? So that's one thing that you probably run into before that might be a little confusing. But anyway, so thanks for that, Megan, how to get that done on one line. All right, so like I said, loops are probably the best way to show you the use of having a variable. There are a few type of loops. So the most used one is probably going to be the for or the for each in something. And I do have an example of that we're going to walk through in just a second. Um, Give me one second, I'll pull it up right now because I want to make sure I have it right. Okay, yeah. Okay. So for, all right, so this is the example we're going to do for for. And this does use a variable, okay? And the variable is going to be changing throughout the run of this particular loop. All right. So the dangers of running a loop, and a loop are typically used to cycle through a file. For instance, if you have a listing of user names or listing of computer names, you would use a loop to iterate through. That means go through one at a time and place some type of action against it, even if it's just reading out the name of that particular item. So that is what we use loops for. It automates, in a sense, what activity we're looking to get done, and it does it for us in a very quick and easy fashion. And we're just looking for, we're just interested in output anyway, so we don't care about how we get it done as long as it's usable. Okay. All right. So for. Now the dangers are if you don't do this properly, you can cause it to crash your system. You'll go into an endless loop, and you will notice very quickly that your computer will not like you. It will start to have problems. I've had the program just completely lock up on me when I've done loops that I did not configure properly to have an endpoint or to have a termination statement, and it's gone to a point where it's actually frozen my entire computer, right? Is probably the most common application where you do not want to mess up your loops is when you're writing VBA scripts in Excel. I promise you, messing up a loop in Excel will crash your entire computer. Well, not crash it, but it will slow it down to the point you cannot even switch a window. Okay, so always pay attention to how to build a loop of for out when you're working with anything. All right, so or a loop in period, not just a for loop, just any loops. All right, so for. How do we do a for loop? So what does a for mean? So for just says with each instance, do something, okay? For a stated amount of time or stated uh, number of time or whatever it is, right? Whatever your basis of um, condition is, whatever your condition statement is, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to do with this one. So this one's going to be $I, which we all know is just a variable I'm setting. And we're going to do this equals to, let's say 10. Okay, so I currently equals 10. That is the value that is placed inside the variable of I. So whenever we do I, it just means 10, right? So for 10, we're going to do a semicolon because we're placing a value where, what is the word I'm looking for? We are equating, what's the equate part? An expression. Wow. I'm totally blanking on this word. Anyway, we're setting the value of I to 10, right? We're setting the value of I to 10. And then what we're going to do is give it a condition. So a condition is at what point it stops so that we can move on. Okay, so this is a part that's really important to make sure you don't get into an endless loop when you crash something or burn something out or whatever happens. And we're going to separate this again by a semicolon. So what this is saying is we set the value of I to 10, and as long as I is less than or equal to 50, that's what LE means. It's the abbreviation dash LE is less than or equal to 50. Okay. And then we end out with the semicolon. Then we have to tell it, okay, what to do with I. We're going to say, hey, I is going to be increased by 10. Or we do 5. It doesn't make any difference. We say we're going to increase it by 5. Now, we have our starting of our for statement. We've defined what our variable is for the for. What that means we defined the target. So whether it be a computer name, whatever it is, in this case it's just an integer of 10, but this works no matter what you're doing, right? So you're saying, hey, for this target, we're gonna say the condition of it is going to be met once it hits the less than or equal to 50. Okay. And then we will say we're going to iterate or we're going to increase the integer by 5 every time we cycle through the loop. Okay. That's what we're saying at this point. So how do we get this to run? We're now going to go ahead and say, hey, well, we're going to give it an action, right? We have a condition statement. We've defined it. We've given it a condition. We've given it what to do within that condition. Now we have to tell it, hey, this is the action I want you to do. The curly bracket just says print. That's all it means to the computer. Is print out I. So let's see what happens. There you go. So this is your first for loop. This is your first loop you've done. Okay. So this is the foundation of learning how to automate reading a file out, working with any particular object that may have a list to it. This is what you do. This is a way to interact with that. Okay. Now, another variation of this is the for each. Okay. Now, the for and the for each are different in the case that for is some type of activity that you're kicking off and you're controlling somewhat and you're making something happen from start to finish, right? You know exactly what you want to get out of it and you're saying, "Hey, I want to just iterate through something. You want to control this many times for this long," right? For each is almost like a query. It's a reverse end of it. You don't know like well, you know what you're targeting, but you don't know what the values are going to be. You don't know what's inside of that target. So you say for each, I'm targeting this list and I want you to pull out whatever's in there. I'm not going to tell you it's a number. I'm not going to tell you it's a name. I'm just going to say, hey, for each item you come across inside this object, pull something out. Okay. So for this one to work, we had to first set a variable just for our test run. So we're going to do another variable. And let's just say this variable is, I don't know, random. So ran. Okay. I don't want to do rand because it might be, oh no, it's not. Okay. It's red. It might work. Okay. So ran. And then we're going to create what they call an array. Um, so an array is I know people won't get mad if I say it's a listing, but an array kind of is like a list, but it could be multiple dimensions to an array. Think of like a grid, like a 2 by 2, 3 by 2, something like that grid. That is an array, but in this case, we're just doing a single dimension array, which we're going to use like in a list. And so in this case, we're going to say all these values are going to be, um, let's give it names, right? So we're going to do Mary, we're going to do, and I'm feeling like I should be doing double. No, I'm going to leave it single. We're going to do single for text, okay? Um, and um, Rico and Mar. Oh, what was it? M. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with Leah. I haven't seen Leah before, so welcome, Leah. I'm glad you're here. I saw you earlier. Forgot to say your name. I apologize. Please don't be mad at me. But we're going to do Leah, and then, of course, we got to do Megan. Okay? All right. So we're going to close this out. All right. And then we're going to save this variable. Okay? Now we do echo just to make sure it's saved properly. Rand is in there. Echo, we have a list. Okay? Um, so now we're going to do our loop. So for each of something. Now, you would expect us to use maybe for each rand, which honestly you can do. I just don't suggest doing it for confusing reasons. Um, but you could. It doesn't to the programming language. Every action is independent of the previous action, unless you're building an entire function or entire class, well, entire function or method that keeps track of everything, right? But if you're not doing that, everything's independent. So I can call it rand and then print out rand or rand and stuff like that. But I don't like doing confusing stuff like that. So I'm gonna do for every R in rand, what do we do? We're just gonna print R. That's it. That's all we're gonna do. Okay. Now for each, let's try to do a different condition, right? For each R, um, oh, you can't see what's before the parentheses? Oh, Megan, I apologize. Let me see. If I adjust my screen, will that help you out? I want to make sure I'm doing this right for you. Can you say you can't see what's before the parentheses? Or are you talking about the curly brackets? Because I'm a little lost by before. Because what you have here are for each is the command I'm issuing for each. Then you have the parentheses and then dollar sign to state that it's a variable we're working with. And then we have the end statement and then rand, the actual variable we created last time. So that's all we're doing at this point. Okay. You can't make out what it is for each. So let me go ahead and see if I can zoom in for you. Let's see, view, zoom in, control, add. Okay, let's try doing this. Oh, forgot I'm in the virtual machine. What do I do? Okay, you said you can't make out what's before the parentheses. You can't make out what it is. Okay. Oh, that. Oh, I apologize. Thank you. I just remembered. Okay. So the array is denoted by the at sign. So that's an at sign. I hope zooming in still helped you out a little bit. And I appreciate you mentioning that, Megan. I forget that it may be hard for some people to see. So yeah, it's a at sign. So it's at, then the open parentheses and the end parentheses to do a array or list as I want to call it. Okay. So what can we do with this? So we could do R. Um, let's try doing what we did before. This plus I don't know. Hey, see what happens. Look at that. We can manipulate what happens to the R. We can do whatever. If we want to do, I think we do a where statement for each. Now, I'm not going to try to get too complicated with it. Just want to make sure I do that first. Okay. And then I think that is it for the loops. There are other loops. I guess the last one. I should just show you the last loop as well that you want to be mindful of. Okay. Um, this one I kind of don't have too often use for it, but it does exist. Is the while statement, which is you. So for a while statement is you have a number of items, let's say in a file, and you know how many items are there, and let's say you want to uh, append to you want to append to each item something, right? Like we just did before, where I added the word hey to the end of everything. Okay. And I could have put hey in front of it. I didn't even think about that if I just changed around. But anyway, now I'm kind of just, oh my gosh, I gotta let this go sometimes. I get so like OCD almost with this. It just gets to me. All right, hey, all right, I'm done. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. All right, anyway, so the while loop. So while something is happening, while something exists, so while, excuse me, while the um, while the file has items in it, we're going to go ahead and do a certain action. right? And remember, the action is the curly brace. So while, let's say, um, let's say while var ran, mm, okay, not equals. No, that's not what I want to do. Let me see. Um, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. Not equals. Not gonna hurt to try, right? So not equals to Leah. We're gonna do. Let me see. Okay. Um, right host. Oh, I'm gonna try this. I haven't done it for each. I'm gonna take the last loop we did and see if I can make it work this way. For each R in rand, I'm having a feeling it's not gonna work because I need to use a pipe. But anyway, all right, I can't. Okay, clear. Okay, okay, got you. All right, so for each R in rand, this is definitely not going to work. So, but we're going to try it anyway because we want to see what happens. So we're going to close it off. So I took the same thing I wrote up here, okay? I'm placing it in here. What I'm hoping happens is it executes the for each, and for every output, it passes into this activity for the while loop, okay? And what we're expecting is this R eventually is going to equal out to Leah, and it's going to stop. Don't know what's going to happen, but that's what I'm hoping, right? Pretty sure there's another way to do it. And yep, there we go. I messed up. I messed up. Let me just cancel it. So if you ever mess up, just hit the Control C on your keyboard. It will stop what's happening. So that's definitely not what I want to do. So now another option is we do a while loop. While this happens, we can do. In fact, this is the time. It's probably best to Google, right? How to PowerShell while loop um, with for each loop. Let's see what comes back. How to use the for each loops parallelly. What is that a word? Parallelly and PowerShell. PowerShell loop through array. We got that. While loop syntax with while. Okay, I think this might be what I'm looking for. Let's see. Um, we got for each, for, while. Not what I'm looking for. Okay, but maybe this is do while loop syntax with an array. Okay. All right, less than. Okay, so for each object, parallel loop with an array syntax works in PowerShell 7. Okay, so it looks like I can Store the, is that storing in collection? Looks like it's storing in the collection. I want to see if there's a while loop. It looks like this is actually close to what I want to do. Oh man. All right. Well, that's something to explore and do a little later. But that's something I want to figure out. I want to figure out how to do a for each item and have it rotate through. Oh, I closed the wrong thing. Pull it back up. And have it rotate through my for each into my while loop. So that's something I want to explore. So I'll definitely do that. Okay. All right. So let's go and clear the screen. So now we talked about how to get a command in PowerShell, how to find out information about a command in PowerShell, and we covered the fact of looping in PowerShell and the fact that you use loops to iterate through files and to read that stuff out. So you know that we have an item on our desktop, which was, oh, I deleted it, the test item. So let's see here, new. We're going to just create a new item, I think, a new file, new item. So let's do new item. Yep, new item is here, and we're going to do. First of all, we're going to change our directory, and I think I can use ls. Yeah, ls works here. Cancel that. Change directory to. Now, the reason I'm changing directory is because I don't want to create anything in my 632 folder. And change C. Says that. Wow, I really haven't done this in a while. There we go. And then now, where can I go from here? LS. I can go to users, change directory, users tab. I did not want the dot. Maybe get rid of the LS. Okay. LS again. And I am tester. So I'm going to change directory to tester. Okay. And then LS again. I have my desktop. Okay. And so I'm going to change directory to desktop. Now, let's clear the screen. Start from here. And want to do a new item. So I can do a file, and I think we do item type. Let's go down item type. Okay. We tell us a file, and then name test 43.txt. Okay. Look at that. We just created our first file using PowerShell. It showed up right here. And I think we open it by doing invoke item, I believe. Invoke item. And we're going to point to test. There we go. All right, so now I created a file using the interface, using PowerShell, and now I'm going to create information. So I'm going to say, of course, hello, goodbye, um, and IDK. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and save it. Control S. We save the file, and I'm going to do Alt F4 to close that file. And now let's see if I can do something with um, get item property. Okay, let's see what options we have. Dash. I can filter out stuff, but let's first find out what I want. Let's try path, right? Let's get the path for test. See what it gives me. All right, so it's telling me it's located here on the desktop. That's right. Now, what else can I find out about path? About the test file. I want to find out what size it is. So property, I think is what I'm looking for. Verbose. Let's try that one. Test 43. No, that did not give me that. I wonder how I get the item property. Go over here. Okay. Get size of file. Okay. Example of this. Yeah, don't need that. Let's need a straightforward answer. Let's go with the one that says easy. And I think this should be easy enough. Let's see. All right. So we have file equals this. And then we do get item file dot length. That's it. Okay. Let's see what happens. So it looks like we could do in megabyte, we can do in kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes. Those are the file options we can do. So this looks like this is how I find out what the item is. So I'm gonna flip over back over to my ISE. Um, okay, and let's try this again. So we're gonna do get item only, not item property. So if I get back on the line properly, let's see, get item, and then it says file. So let's see what happens if I do it straightforward and I don't use the right to host part. So get file dot. I'm starting to feel like this is not going to work. But let's see what happens. What does it do? Okay, it just does that. Okay. Yeah, I don't think the dot notation. So this is called dot notation. The length part that you see on the screen behind the ISE, that's considered dot notation. And that means it is a um, attribute of the object that we're pointing towards. And the thing about it is I'm pretty sure there's a reason why we do that. Yeah, that's what I thought. So let's follow the way it says to do it. So we'll give it a new variable. We'll call it size query underscore query is our variable. And it's going to equal out to um, well, file size. All right, so we got that, and then we're going to say, okay, name of the file is, we have to have the entire path, which we have up here. And I don't know if we need the whole path. Maybe we can do the dot note, the relative path. Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know it did that. So let's say we get that. Yeah, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. That actually ran it. Okay, let's not do that again. So we'll give it the entire path. Looks like we have to put it in single quotes. So, and maybe that might be what I need to do. Single quotes. Let's try that here. And actually, I think double quotes because we have a dot. Now, anytime you see a dot in a path, whether it be Linux or Windows, it just means the current directory that we're in. That's all that means. So dot means current now directory, present working directory. It'll substitute everything else for you. So let's see if that worked for me here. And the way we can test that is by doing get item, verbose. We did get property last time, right? Path. And let's try to do this with the variable file size. All right, cool. Looks like that does work. Yeah, so that worked. So what would happen if I had done single quotes with the period? I have a feeling it would have took it as a literal and stored it as dot. So let's try two. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind being wrong. That's why we explore these things together. Hey, yeah, I was wrong. It took it even with the single quotes. Okay, All right, so single or double quotes works just fine for this. And let's go ahead and now put together what the example is above here. So now we're going to do write. So we got to do the verb. So write host host is the noun. We're going to write to host. We're going to do double parentheses. Okay? Because what we're going to do is capture the output of getting item, targeting our file size. We use the first one, okay? And then we're going to close the first parentheses. That's all we want to do there. We're going to do dot, and look at that. Now that we put it in a parentheses, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's not because we're using right host, but now we've done a parentheses. We are now given options for the dot notation. Now we already know what the dot notation is going to be because it's in our example on the web here. We're going to do dot length, okay? And then it says to give it a 1. I like doing megabytes, so I'm going to do 1 megabyte. Okay, looks like it closed it. And I don't know about you, but I cannot read that. Let's see if there's a, because I would guess because it's such a small file. So let's do kilobytes and see if it's better reading. All right, there you go. 0.019 kilobytes is how large that file is. Now, how do we read the file? How do we get the output? Invoke is going to open it. Get. Let's just do this. Read. Okay. My screen is freezing. I hate when it does this. All right, everyone. Well, it looks like the website I went to might have caused me some issues. And now my VM is completely frozen. Well, that might be a sign that we are meant to close up a little bit early today. But let's see what's going on with my RAM, my swap. I got good RAM space, and my swap isn't horrible. So let's see. All right, I just minimized it. Let me see if it refreshes this way. Yeah, no, it is frozen. All right, y'all. Well, since we're already close to time, only 6 minutes out, apologize I couldn't show you how to cycle through the file itself. That's what I wanted to show you, because just because we're using just random files, we're using just things we're making up on the spot. All of these activities we've done today can be applied to any file. It can be applied to any activity. You can run a loop on anything. It's always useful to know what commands you're working with. And it's always useful to know how to know the option that comes with the commands. And also it's always useful to know how to create and also open files on your computer. Now, other things I do want to cover when we go over the PowerShell again is how to get information about your host machine. But first, like I said, I wanted to make sure you understand what loops were, how to set up a loop in PowerShell, and also understand how to create a variable, because we'll be using those when we start doing more activities and setting values to the rest of the system and the rest of the things we'll interact with on Windows. So these are just basic fundamental things you have to get used to, and then we'll test some stuff out. After we test some stuff out, what I want to do also is walk through a completed PowerShell script and to see if you all can make your own and understand what you're looking at. So that's what we'll cover again. We'll jump into PowerShell again, just dig a little bit deeper into syntax, reserved words in PowerShell, reserved characters in PowerShell, and we'll go that route the next time, okay? Well, I hope this was helpful, at least to get you started in PowerShell, get you into ISE. If you had any problems,
please make sure that you set up TeamViewer. Send me a chat, send me an email if you have my information. If not, just join in next time. I'm gonna have an email set up for us that you can actually, anyone can email me at in or outside of my private group that comes to this. And yeah, we'll go from there. And I'm happy to help out anyone I can. And like I said, some of this I'm just learning on the fly as well. I don't do PowerShell every single day, but it's something I'm used to and I've written before. And I'm hoping to help you learn a little bit on how to read it and how to interact with it. All right, y'all. Well, it's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. If nothing else, take away from this, make sure you see the proof. And that's why I say trust the techno proof, right? So whatever you think you know, we're going to work through it piece by piece together to make sure it actually works. And thanks again, Megan, for all the suggestions on what was going on, okay? And how to get those variables written out. Take care. Enjoy your evening. I'm going off to my daddy duties. Bye, y'all.